Hey there, Aries. Welcome to your July 2019 reading. I'm doing something a little bit different with you guys. I wanted to test a few things out this month, and I decided you guys would be one of the signs that I would try this with. So I'm hoping that you would be willing to help me out and help the channel out as well. I'm going to do your pre-shuffle a little bit differently than I've done the other pre-shuffles for the signs that I've already read ahead of you guys. So if you do watch this video and you like it, I'm hoping that you will take time to watch one of the earlier videos. I think there are 5 that are published already before you. I did the pre-shuffle a completely different way than I'm going to do yours, and if you're willing, I would just love it if you could leave a comment somewhere on either video just saying which pre-shuffle format you preferred. So if you prefer this, leave a comment here. If you prefer the other one that you watch, leave a comment there. So anyone that ends up watching this video and wants to help me with that, I would appreciate it so much. And hopefully there's one of the earlier signs that you guys want to cross-watch anyway, so I won't be imposing too much. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the pre-shuffle. So when I was just deciding what type of music to listen to for you guys, I felt very drawn to The Weeknd. So if you don't know his music, maybe listen to it. The vibe of the music is really what I felt matched with you guys. It's really interesting. I'm just going to walk you through the parts that came out. So you have this Page of Swords, Knight of Cups reversed, both reversed energy going on here. It's very interesting because I feel like this is a situation where someone was like, they were like a big talker, right? Like they talked a big game, but there wasn't a lot to like back it up. And they just, like, they made themselves seem like they were someone who, like, they were very responsible, or they would never take any risk, but they were the most like hasty, reckless person you'd ever met in a lot of ways. And at the same time, even having that energy, it's like they also just had like such high expectations in terms of what they expected from you. I feel like this is the other person for you, Aries. And I'll talk about why I feel like this is the energy of the person that you were dealing with. It's like they would get so moody and jealous, and it was triggered when you did things that were like a fraction, a small fraction of the things that they did to you. If you did even the smallest bit of that to them, it would just send them into this like jealous rage and just this super just moody energy. Like you never knew what you were going to get. It's really kind of an intense energy. Now, you have this King of Swords, 6 of Wands, also both reversed energy as well that came out. And for this one, it's someone was not being honest. They were being they were manipulating the power that they had, or the position that they had. They were manipulating things to make it seem like they were telling the truth, and to make it seem like they had like like their truth, what they said, their story should be the one that was trusted. They put a lot of effort into explaining why they should be the one that ultimately was deemed to be being truthful, but they weren't being truthful at all. And they got caught, they got called out, and it really, like, it all blew up in their face. And it was almost like it was the first time it had ever happened to them, that someone managed to like turn it around on them. It's like they literally got a taste of their own medicine. And I'm doing this pre-shuffle now. I haven't actually done your reading yet, but I feel like that's actually what this video is going to be called. Like they got to experience they got a taste of their own medicine. They got to experience what it's like when they do this to other people, but they've never had it done to them. But it really brought them down. It like it totally popped that ego bubble that they have, because they have such a huge ego. But it got deflated by this because they felt like someone managed to like get one over on them, and that's never happened before. It's very interesting because the Six of Swords reversed came out, and then this Five of Wands, it came out sideways. And I left it that way because I feel like there was this moment where a conversation was had, and it was about how you, Aries, for you, it was about how you weren't sure about whether to let this go fully or not. That you felt like there was still something here. There was unfinished business between the two of you that needed to be dealt with. And I feel like for some of you, this led to an all-out, knock-down, drag-out, blow-up of a fight. A big, huge fight. And for another group of you, it's almost like it was worse what you experienced, because it was like no reaction. Like if anything was going on internally, they didn't show it at all. And for those of you that was your experience, that felt even more hurtful to you than if it had turned into a huge fight, because at least if it was a fight, you knew that there was some sort of emotion still there, some sort of passion. But having this like total non-reaction to it was just, that was so painful. And it's like, for that group of you that got this non-reaction, it's like this energy that I was talking about up here, like they just went full on back into this. It's like they were this, and then they got called out, and it really brought them down, and their ego sort of, they almost started to seem like they were getting it. They had learned a lesson. And that made you sort of look back at them and think, okay, well, maybe they get it now. Maybe they understand, and maybe they're not going to make the same sort of mistake again, or maybe they're not going to behave in this way anymore. And then when you get to that point, and this conversation is had, for a group of you, it led to this enormous fight. And for another group of you, they just reacted like there was nothing there in terms of them having any sort of doubt or any desire to try to work things out. There was just nothing. It was just a non-response to what you said. And for those people that got that response, it's like the person went right back to this energy. They felt just like they did at the very beginning. And it's like they retreated back into this because it's what's comfortable for them when they feel threatened. When they feel uncomfortable, they default to this type of energy. Now, you had this Ace of Wands reversed. And I feel like this just speaks to there being lots of delay here. I do feel like something new is coming out of this, and something new is on the horizon, but it's something that's going to have a little bit of a delay to it. And I feel like it's almost because something has to happen first in order for you to actually get relief from this. Because the other two cards coming out during the pre-shuffle, you have the Four of Swords reversed with Death upright. So you're at a place right now where you are just, you're over it. You're exhausted and you're tired, and you just feel like it's been the same thing. Just, it's like a Groundhog's Day. You just, every day feels like you're not making any progress in dealing with this. And you know that you want to figure out how to get to the point that you can let this go. But what you're realizing is that in order for you to let this go, in order for you to actually work through this and what happened here, it requires that you unpack a lot of stuff. Like, it requires that you go through what feels very much like a dark night of the soul, ego death sort of journey here. That's the only way to unravel this, because this was something that was very complicated and very intense. I'll tell you, just during the meditation portion, I felt like for you, Aries, you're in this place where even if this person came back, like if this person called you right now in the middle of this video and they were like, I've made a mistake and I want you back and we have to work on this. Even though internally, you would be thrilled and that would be like your dream. That would be your dream come true for this person to also feel this unfinished business type of energy. Because at least then it's like for you, in your mind, you think, okay, well, if we try one more time with both of us knowing the things that we know about each other and about what we're like together, if we try one more time and we repeat those mistakes, then I can walk away from this. I can be done with it. But what if we try one more time and we actually have learned our lessons? What if I'm walking away at the exact time that we've managed to learn everything we need to? So I have to try this one more time, because what if it works? I'm worth taking the risk that it'll just be exactly the same, because at least then I still get an answer. I'm willing to have it be exactly like it was so that I can know I need to walk away from it. But I also want to try it one more time just in case it works. And if that other person suddenly was like, you know what, I get it, I agree. What would be triggered in you would be this response of, well, maybe we shouldn't. And it's because this person has really made it very clear to you how much they feel you hurt them, how much you broke them, how much you caused them pain. And it's been something that's been a focus, I feel, for the entire run of this connection. They, energetically, again, going back up to this, they made lots of promises that they never delivered on. But they didn't even, it's like they're blind to themselves. They don't realize that they're like this in a lot of ways. They play the victim. And internally for them, what's interesting, when I tune into their energy, they believe that they are the victim, even though they're really not. Like, if an outside group of people observed what happened, they would be like, clearly this person was not the victim. But even if it was like 50-50, right? Like, it was 50-50, it was both people. This person would be like, no, I was the wronged one. Wronged, not wrong. They would say they were the one that had been victimized in this. But it's interesting because what's happened as a result of that, Aries, is that you feel like even if it's something that they're doing to try to manipulate you or control you, for you, you're like, okay, well, either A, I really did hurt you that badly, in which case I don't ever want to try anything with you again, because I don't want to actually hurt you. I don't want to cause you any sort of pain. I don't want to have any sort of negative impact on your life. I actually want you to be happy. I care about you. I don't want to cause you pain. But obviously I do, so therefore I'm not going to even consider this. I'm not going to consider this try again thing. It's like, if they ever said yes back, you would have so many things bubble up that you would be like, no. And it's interesting because I feel like for them, they have the same sort of vibe with you, where it's like, even if they did want this, like, even if ultimately they were feeling exactly the same way as you, they would never say it. They would never admit it. They would never break down and actually admit to it, because then they would have to they would have to try it. And they're the exact opposite of you, in that for them it's interesting because they honestly just feel like they would rather not know whether it could work than have it fail again. They're the opposite energy of you. So this pre-shuffle was actually very intense, and I don't actually know how I feel about it because it's almost like a little mini reading this way. But if you guys liked it, if you guys want me to do more of those compared to how I did the pre-shuffle in the earlier videos, and people actually comment and let me know that, then I'll make some adjustments and play around a little bit. So I'm just going to spend some time here shuffling and getting my energy just focused back onto the cards. While I'm doing that, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit just to say hello. I decided just to jump right into the pre-shuffle with you guys. But hi, how are you? I hope that you guys have been doing well. I've had a crazy month, but it's been good for the most part. I'm doing things a little bit differently this month than I did last month. So before I actually put the spread down, if you want to know more information about the spread itself and really in-depth conversation basically with me about each of the cards and the different areas of the spread and how you can tie them together, I made a separate video this month for that. And so I'll put the link to that video in the description box below. So if you want to watch that, head over there and watch that and then come back here. I will assume by this point everyone that wants to watch that will have watched it. I'm going to just give the deck 2 shuffles and a cut, and we'll be ready to go for you guys. And I will be taking your first card from the bottom of the deck. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lay this out. Just going to switch you guys over this view. So this was off the bottom. Go ahead and lay out the rest of the spread for you guys. While I'm doing this, if you have anything specific that you are hoping to get guidance or insight around with this reading, go ahead at this point and tune into that. Spend some time just thinking about it and get your own energy centered on what it is that you are looking to get from this reading. Okay, so I feel connected here. I'm going to put up a title slide really quickly just to explain this section. We're going to be dealing with these first 3 cards right off the top. So I'll put that up, and then when that's done, I'll go ahead and flip these cards over. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to turn all 3 of these cards over. And again, this is the story between these 2 people. So I'll see if I can get this camera to focus. So we'll start here. You have the Knight of Swords coming out, representing the overall energy here. It's interesting. I feel like the energy with this card is really one that feels like there's a push to just manage to find something that feels like it's success. It's very interesting though, because even though it feels like there's a lot of energy being created here to try to find a way to turn whatever it is that's going on into something positive, or to try to turn it around, it feels very like it's not well thought out. It's reactionary. It's a reactionary type of thinking. I'm sort of merging all three of these cards into what I'm saying. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the other two cards here. So in terms of what exists between these two people, you have to focus. So you have the star. It's come out reverse. And then for the purpose of this connection, you have the Knight of Cups. So I just wanted to take a break and show you guys the cards because I knew I was starting to merge everything into the conversation. Right now, Aries, if I were to jump into either person and just be able to experience what they are experiencing, it feels so, it's despair. And it's hopeless. It feels very hopeless to me. That's the word that is just over everything. There's a hopelessness. It just feels like whatever existed here, whatever was prior to where we're at right now, the story, it's totally cut off now. And I don't necessarily even mean that in the terms of like the people themselves have cut it off. It's like it doesn't exist anymore. Whatever happened so fundamentally changed what this connection was initially, that initial connection doesn't exist anymore as something that's possible. And I feel like the purpose of that, even though it sounds very cruel, and it's something that most people wouldn't want to experience, but the purpose of that connection is to make both people have to build themselves back up, figure out how to get themselves back into a place where they can love again. Because right now, for both of these people, love feels like something that is so potentially dangerous and full of so much possible pain and sadness. So it's not appealing right now to either. It's something to be avoided. It's something that's actively pushed away. And that has to heal. And it will. So that when you get to that point where you can think, oh, you know, I think it would be kind of awesome to meet someone and to fall in love again. Then you realize at that point that whatever happens moving forward, whatever you go through moving forward, you'll always be able to come back from it. It's that moment where you really feel like, no, I'm always going to be able to see the beauty in things and imagine this really passionate, wonderful connection. And I'm always going to strive for that. And I'm going to be someone who's out there, you know, flirting and doing romantic things, whether I'm trying to, you know, attract someone to me or whether I found someone and I'm just wanting to show them how much I care. I'm going to be fiery and passionate. That's how I am. Like, that's where you have to end up, and you will. I can feel it. So we're going to go ahead and look at the what happened, although I'm very curious to see compared to that pre-shuffle, like what else is going to come out in terms of what happened. But I'll put up the title slide, and then when we come back, we will do this section. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn all 4 of these cards over. I want to see them all together. Okay. Well, let's just talk first about the current emotional state of the 2 people involved here. I think that's a good place just to dive in. So Aries, for you, we have the Page of Swords coming out upright. Doesn't seem like it's wanting to focus. There we go. And for the other person, in terms of their current emotional energy, we have the 6 of Swords upright. So let's talk about this. Aries, for you, it's what I was just saying. There's already a bit of a beginning of you starting to feel that curiosity about what's next for you. And you are looking at this last connection, this last relationship, and you're starting to think, okay, what are some things that I can do to make sure that I don't experience that again? What are things that I can do to make sure that I'm making my needs known? And there's this new way within you of trying to think about expressing yourself as well as protecting yourself within relationships, which I think is awesome. Now, for this other person with the 6 of Swords, this feels like something karmically they had to experience. And it's something that leads them to I'm going to say it this way. It leads them to a point where if they move forward, they would have a huge amount of personal and spiritual growth as a result. But it only takes them to that point. It doesn't push them over the edge. So they still have to make that choice. They still have to choose to go through things and to allow change to happen, to let the healing that needs to happen. And what has to come with that, if you've ever done healing, you have to admit that there was pain. You actually have to feel everything in order to heal it. You can't pretend that nothing happened and do healing work. It doesn't do any good. So you really do have to go through some painful experiences in order to heal. It's part of the challenge of healing. That leads us into a good point for these next cards, because this is about the underlying fear issue. So, Aries, for you, you have the 5 of Wands reversed. And for the other person, we have the Queen of Wands upright. Now keep in mind, this is the underlying fear or the issue at play. So we'll start with the 5 of Wands over here, reversed for Aries. Aries, I feel like the main fear which exists inside of you is, at its core, about you avoiding conflict. It's about not knowing internally. You do know internally. It's not trusting internally or not being able to connect to it or hear it. But because there's this disconnect within you about knowing what certainty feels like inside, it leads you to not want to make any decisions about outside because you don't know whether or not you can trust it. There have been times, I'll put it this way, there have been times when you've said, absolutely, I should trust this person, and they blew your life apart. And other times that you were like, no, I don't trust that person. And you found out later that they're this amazing person, but by that point you've sort of burnt the bridge and there's no way of connecting with them. Okay? So because of that, you've gotten really in your head about trusting what you feel inside. And it just leads to a space where you don't do anything. It's like you sort of check out, and that's not good for you either. For the other person, this Queen of Wands, it's interesting because, okay, normally I would read this in this way. Normally I would say that this person has a fear of being the type of person that is seen as being very social and alluring and independent and confident and seductive and flirty, right? Like they just feel like that's something that like they could never be. Okay, that's how I would normally read this card in this position. But what I actually get energetically off of this is this person is scared to own that. And I know that sounds similar, but it's really not if you think about it, because one person doesn't believe that they can be that. What I get from this card is that the person knows this is how they are. Like, they know that that's really how they are as a person, but they're terrified of it. They're literally terrified of that aspect of who they are. And it's a very interesting energy because coming off of it is all Queen of Wands energy. I mean, it's just the card itself is just putting off that energy of the Queen of Wands. And so that's what is there. That's what exists within this person. And they're smart enough and they've had enough experience with people to know that, but they are just terrified of it. And we'll get to a little bit more about that in this next section because we get to explore a little bit more deeply about them. So I think we can go ahead and move on. I'm going to put the title side up, and then when we come back, we'll do this bottom row. Hey Aries, welcome back. I'm going to turn all 4 cards over, take a look at what's going on here. Okay, we're going to start with the desired outcome. So Aries, coming out for you, you have the 3 of Coins reversed. I don't know why this camera is suddenly not focusing. There we go. And for the other person, we have the 5 of Cups reversed. Very interesting energy here. Aries, let's start with you. Aries, I feel like right now you really are in a place where what you truly want is just to be on your own. You just want to be by yourself. You want to have some time to just exist, worrying only about you, thinking only about what you have to do next, and really being detached as much as you can be. It's very powerful, the desire to have that. For this other person, they're in a place where they have been knocked down. They've really endured. And I think I said this in the pre-shuffle. I don't think it was here, but it's like they've experienced themselves. They've had a moment where they were left with all the fingers pointing at them, and there was no way of denying. But they're realizing finally that you just have to figure out how to forgive yourself for the mistakes that you've made, because you didn't, even if you knew better in the moment when you made the choice, right or wrong, it was an impulsive choice that you made. And the lesson that you've learned is not to do that again and to try to be less impulsive. As long as they've learned that, they have to forgive themselves for anything that they did. You can't go your entire life beating yourself up or hating yourself. You are not able to live a life that way. So they just want to find a way to forgive themselves and move on. Just manage to just move on is their biggest goal right now. To find a way of just getting out of it, moving away from it, getting some distance. I'm going to talk, Aries, about what needs to heal for you last. So we'll start with this other person. They have the Seven of Wands reversed. I'm going to talk about this very briefly because it's a little bit repetitive. This person perpetually puts themselves into a space with their relationships where it just becomes exhausting and overwhelming, and there's really nothing that is left to do except just give up on it. It's if you looked at this person's attempts to connect with other people, there would just be this long history of things really quickly taking off, and then eventually they just drive the person away. And they don't do that deliberately. And each time it happens for them, it feels shocking. And for them, they're like, oh my gosh, another person gave up on me, or oh my gosh, I was too much for another person. It's like no matter how many times this happens, they always point to the other person and say, oh, well, you had another person, couldn't deal with how blunt and honest I am. They don't ever take the moment to think, well, maybe there's a way to be blunt and honest without being cruel and mean. Right? It's like you can be blunt and honest and also be very kind and compassionate in how you deliver that honesty. But this person doesn't think that on that level because they don't ever make it about them. But this was something that was very karmic for them, because this has put them into a state of mind finally where they're thinking, wow, I had a lot to do with this. They really do have that knowledge, but they have a long way to go in terms of figuring this out. I feel like once they do figure it out, though, they really do have a huge change internally. There's like a huge amount of change that happens with them, for sure. So we're at the last section here, and what I'm going to do is, just in case some of you I know did not go to watch the video about the spread, so you don't know what's coming here. If you're still with me, I just want to ask you, these are going to be messages that come through. You get to pick who this message is from. So that could be your spirit guides or a guardian angel. It could be a twin flame, a soulmate. It could be from a loved one that has passed over that you want to get information from. It can even be a future version of you from a year from now or 5 years from now. Totally up to you. But make sure that you figure out who that source is before you move forward in the video. So if you need to pause it, go ahead and pause. But I will put up the title slide here, and then when we come back, we'll look at what the messages are. Okay, so hopefully you have the person in mind or the source in mind that you want these cards to come from. And we will start with the advice and guidance. We have the Nine of Cups reversed. I really like this card in terms of advice and guidance for you guys. Now, normally if the Nine of Cups came out reversed in a reading, I might warn a little bit about being very unappreciative of the things that you have in life or indulging yourself too much. But Aries, what I feel for you is actually the opposite. I feel like it's time to just pamper yourself and indulge yourself a little bit. You've had something very emotionally taxing occur. You've gone through something that was really very, very life-changing for you. And it's important that you take the time to treat yourself well. That's very important right now. And I feel like that is the advice that's coming through. And keep in mind, this message came through from a very specific source for you. And that place that this advice comes from is saying to work right now on making yourself feel happy and making yourself feel loved. Because you can always give those things to yourself. They don't have to come from someone else. And so what you're being asked to do right now isn't being selfish. It's just taking care of yourself. So give that to yourself. And then this last card, I think this is one of the most interesting parts about the spread. And so I know not a lot of people make it through to the end of these videos. And so for those of you who do, I'm going to tie this all together for you. This is the most likely outcome. And I base the most likely outcome on if nothing changes. Like if this person doesn't do their work, this person doesn't do their work, they just continue as it is, what's most likely to happen? And you have also now have this coming from a specific place. So whoever it was that you picked, this is their opinion of the most likely outcome if nothing changes. Okay, so again, that adds a dimension to the reading that's very personal to you. Because, for example, someone thinking of their sister who maybe passed away, and this advice is coming from them, it would mean something very different than if this is the advice coming from like their soulmate, right? So just keep that in mind. The most likely outcome is the Tower, which is not shocking. But it is confirmation. Yeah, you know, right now, if nothing changed, if no one did their work, this would just constantly be a lot of very dramatic, life-altering, sudden, chaotic, everything falls apart moments. It would be what it probably felt like for the most part when you were in it. It would just repeat because it's cycles for both of you that have to be broken. This was definitely something that came in as a karmic push for both of you to get you to a point where you could make the decision to process through a little bit more of the emotional things that need to be processed. And I know that karmic connections often get a very bad rap, but I personally have learned to look at those connections as being just as divinely orchestrated as any other, and they are designed as ways for us to learn. I do think that we have preferences about how we want to learn. We would love for it to not hurt, and we would love for it to be fun and romantic. That's definitely that is a fun way to learn lessons, but it's not the only way that we learn. And there are some things that we will only learn them if we're taught them through a karmic experience. because they are things that they're so heavy for us that we avoid them. Even our spiritual self will try to avoid them because they are so heavy for us. But we do set up connections with people to force our hand because we know there will be some stuff that we don't want to deal with. So if you can just keep that in your head in terms of what these connections and relationships mean, it makes them feel less personal. Because in a way, you were a part of it. This was something that you requested. Say you're mastering a language, and so you decide, hey, you know what, the final thing for me to do here to finally learn this is just to go somewhere where I have no choice, but it's the only thing that I can speak. And I know that's going to be scary, and I know that's going to be overwhelming, but I'm willing to do it because I want to be fluent. It's exactly what this is. It's just wanting to learn and develop yourself as deeply as possible during this life so that that knowledge that you gain becomes knowledge that's available to the whole collective. So shifting your thinking around this stuff can actually do a lot to help. I know it has for me. And I try in these readings to give a little bit of spiritual advice and spiritual guidance because I've had people who've shown up for me to help me understand things and think about things a little bit differently when I've gone through things that I thought, I don't know how I'm going to come back from this. So I do try to offer that for you guys as well. Aries, I think that overall, this was actually a really beautiful reading. I know that it was probably very painful and disappointing, and there's probably still a lot of regret and remorse and wishing that things were a little bit different, but really this was good. This was good for both people involved because it sets them up to be able to really process a lot and heal and let go of a lot of stuff. So I'm feeling pretty good about this, and I think that you guys are going to come out of this really well. You're going to learn a lot and process a lot. So if you liked this video, if it resonated with you, please take a moment to give it a thumbs up. I love it when you guys comment, so absolutely, if you're still listening to me, go leave me a comment. I would love to get to know you because you stuck through to the end. I do enjoy talking to you guys in the comments. Seeing you guys talk to each other is also really great. That makes me super happy because it's part of the reason why I decided to do this. I wanted to create a channel that had subscribers that actually did interact with each other and formed a support group in a way. Because you guys are all subscribers to this channel, and that means that it's something that you all have in common. And I'm really about trying to remind as many people as possible that if you can just find something that you have in common, that's a starting point to being able to have a conversation. So even though there are all different types of people who subscribe to this channel, all different ages, all different geographic locations around the world, you all have decided to make the choice to subscribe here. And I don't feel that that is about me. I feel that that is about energy putting people together that need to be brought together. And this is just the way that I'm helping to orchestrate that. So I'm really excited to see who ends up being here and what it turns into, because I'm already starting to see little bits of it happen, and it's just really exciting for me. So I want to say thank you to you guys. If you're new and you've not yet subscribed, please join up. Clearly, I'm a huge fan of my subscribers, and there are really awesome people. If you don't believe me, just go read some of the comments on the videos. You'll see people are so open and honest and willing to share so freely, and it's really awesome for me to see that. And I think it just creates an environment that normally doesn't exist in the comments section. So that's making me really proud, because it's like a love support fest in the comments on these videos, and that's so unusual. So go check them out for sure. And I, again, just want to thank you for letting me do this reading for you. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments. I appreciate you guys so much, Aries. I wish you a good month ahead. You've got this. I'll see you in August.